Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 4, Text 28. Rajo Vacha Nidhanam upagateshu vrishni bhojeshva adhirata utapa utapeshu mukhya satu katam avasita udavoyad rir api tatyaja akrutam trihadhisha. The king inquired, at the end of the pastimes of the Lord of the three worlds, Sri Krishna, and after the disappearance of the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties, who were the best of the great commanders? Why did Uddhava alone remain? Purport. According to Sri Jiva Goswami, Nidhanam means the transcendental abode of the Lord. Ni means the highest, and Dhanam means opulence. And because the abode of the Lord is the highest manifestation of transcendental opulence, his abode can therefore be called Nidhanam. Apart from the grammatical elucidation, the real purpose of the word Nidhanam is to indicate that all the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties were direct associates of the Lord, and after the end of his pastimes, all the associates were dispatched to their respective positions in the transcendental abode. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur elucidates the meaning of akritim as pastimes. A means a complete, and kritim means transcendental pastimes. Since the Lord is identical with his transcendental body, there is no question of his changing or quitting his body. To act in accordance with the results and customs of the material world, the Lord seems to take his birth or leave his body, but the pure devotees of the Lord know well the actual fact. It is necessary, therefore, for the serious students of Srimad Bhagavatam to follow the notes and comments of the great acharyas like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti. To others who are not devotees of the Lord, the comments and explanations of such acharyas may appear to be grammatical jugglery, but to the students who are in the line of disciplic succession, the explanations of the great acharyas are quite fit. The word upagadeshu is also significant. All the members of the Vrishni and Bhoja directly reach the abode of the Lord. Other devotees do not reach the abode of the Lord directly, but the pure associates of the Lord have no attraction for the opulence of any planets of the material world. Sometimes, due to inquisitiveness, devotees who are to be promoted to the abode of the Lord have some attraction for the opulence of the higher material planets above the earth, and thus they desire to see them while going up to the perfection. But the Vrishnis and Bhojas were directly dispatched because they had no attraction for material planets. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also suggests that according to the Amarakosha dictionary, Akirti also means signal. Akriti also means signal. Lord Krishna ordered Uddhava by signal to go to Badakashrama after his departure, and Uddhava, as a pure devotee of the Lord, carried out the order more faithfully than going back to Godhead, or the abode of the Lord. That was the cause of his remaining alone, even after the departure of the Lord from the face of the earth. Text 29. Shri Shuka Uvacha Brahmasapapadeshena Kalena Moga Vanchita Samhritya Svakulam Svitam Chaksham Deham Achintayat. Shukadev Goswami replied, "My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmanas was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members. He thought to himself as follows." Purport. In this verse, the word tyakshan is very significant in relation to Lord Sri Krishna's leaving his body. Since he is the eternal form of existence, knowledge, and bliss, his body and his self are identical. Therefore, how is it possible that he would leave his body and then disappear from the vision of the world? There is a great controversy amongst the non-devotees or Mayavadis about the mysterious disappearance of the Lord, and the doubts of those men with a poor fund of knowledge have been very elaborately cleared by Srila Jiva Goswami and his Krishna Sandarbha. According to Brahma Samhita, the Lord has many forms. It is stated therein that the Lord has innumerable forms, and when he appears within the vision of the living entities as Lord Krishna, actually appearing, all such forms amalgamate with him. Besides all these infallible forms, he has his universal form, as manifested before Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here in this verse, the word Sritam is also used, which indicates that he left his gigantic universal form called the Virat Rup, not his primeval eternal form, because there is hardly any possibility of his changing his form of Satchidananda. This simple understanding is at once realized by the devotees of the Lord, but those who are non-devotees who perform hardly any devotional service to the Lord either do not understand this simple fact or purposely raise a controversy to defeat the eternity of the transcendental body of the Lord. This is due to the defect called the cheating propensity of the imperfect living entities. By practical experience also, it is seen up to the present day that the Lord's transcendental form is worshipped by devotees in different temples, and all the devotees of the Lord factually realize that the form of the deity in the temple is non-different from the form of the Lord. This inconceivable performance of the internal potency of the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita 7.25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samhavrata. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhabed Grayam Indriyai. The name and form of the Lord cannot be perceived by the material senses, but when he appears within the vision of the mundane people, he assumes the form of the Virat Rup. This is an additional material exhibition of form and is supported by the logic of a subject and its adjectives. In grammar, when an adjective is taken away from the subject it modifies does not change. Similarly, when the Lord quits his Virat Rup, his eternal form does not change, although there is no material difference between himself and any one of his innumerable forms. In the 5th canto, it will be seen how the Lord is worshipped in different planets in his different forms, even now, and now he is worshipped in different temples of this earth also. Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have very elaborately explained this incident of the Lord's disappearance in their commentaries, quoting various authentic versions of Vedic literatures. We purposely do not include them all here to avoid an increase in this volume of this book. The entire matter is explained in Bhagavad Gita as quoted above. The Lord reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. He always keeps himself out of the vision of non-devotees who are devoid of love and devotion, and thus he puts them still further away from the Lord. The Lord appeared on the invitation of Brahma, who prayed before the Chirodakshai Vishnu, and therefore when the Lord appeared, all the forms of Vishnu amalgamated with him, and when the mission was fulfilled, all of them disintegrated from him in the usual course. Text 30. Asmalokad uparate mai janam mad ashrayam arhatyudhava evadha samprati atma vatambara sampratya atma vatambara. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. Purport. Jnanamad Ashrayam is significant in this verse. Transcendental knowledge has three departmental divisions, namely knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, knowledge of the all-pervading Supersoul, and knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Out of the three, transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead has special significance and is known as Bhagavat Tattva Vigyan, specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. This specific knowledge is realized by pure devotional service and no other means. Bhagavad Gita 18.55 confirms this. Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavanyas chasmi tattvata. Only persons engaged in devotional service can factually know the transcendental position of the Lord. Uddhava was considered to be the best amongst all devotees of that time, and therefore he was directly instructed by the Lord's grace, so that people might take advantage of Uddhava's knowledge after the disappearance of the Lord from the vision of the world. This is one of the reasons why Uddhava was advised to go to Bhadrakshrama, where the Lord is personally represented by the Narayana deity. One who is transcendentally advanced can gain direct inspiration from the temple deity, and thus a devotee of the Lord always takes shelter of a recognized temple of the Lord in order to make tangible advancement in transcendental knowledge by the grace of the Lord. Text 31. Nodhavun vapi manyuna yadgunar nardita prabhu ato madbhayunam lokam grahayan iha tistatu. Uddhava is not inferior to me in any way, because he is never affected by the modes of material nature. Therefore, he may remain in this world in order to disseminate specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Purport. The specific qualification for becoming the representative of the Lord is to be unaffected by the material modes of nature. The highest qualification of a person in the material world is to be a Brahmana. But since a Brahmana is in the mode of goodness, to be a Brahmana is not sufficient for becoming a representative of the Lord. One has to transcend the mode of goodness also, and be situated in unalloyed goodness, unaffected by any of the qualities of material nature. This stage of transcendental qualification is called Shuddha Sattva, or Vasudeva. And in this stage, the signs of God can be realized, as the Lord is not affected by the modes of material nature. So a pure devotee of the Lord is also not affected by the modes of nature. That is the primary qualification for being one with the Lord. A person who is able to attain this transcendental qualification is called Jivan Mukta, or liberated, even though he is apparently in material conditions. This liberation is achieved by one who constantly engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.187, it is stated, Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasagira nikilas vapi avastasu jivan mukta sa uchate. Anyone who, by his actions, mind, and words, lives only for the transcendental loving service of the Lord is certainly a liberated soul, even though he may appear in a condition of material existence. Uddhava was in such a transcendental position, and thus he was selected to be the factual representative of the Lord in his bodily absence from the vision of the world. Such a devotee of the Lord is never affected by material strength, intelligence, or even renunciation. Such a devotee of the Lord can withstand all onslaughts of material nature, and therefore he is known as Goswami. Only such Goswamis can penetrate the mysteries of the Lord's transcendental, loving relationships. Thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 32 on Wednesday. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nishringapali Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur
Jai.
Dham Ki Jai,
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev
Jai.
Subhadra Ju Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Vrindavan
Jai.
Dham Ki Jai. Giri
Jai.
Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham
Jai.
Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti
Jai.
Devi, Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Jai Srimad
Jai.
Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan
Jai.
Yajna Ki Jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yajna Ki Jai, Jai Princeton
Jai.
Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat
Jai.
Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat
Jai.
Mat Ki Jai. Our glories to
Jai.
the assembled devotees, our glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki
Jai.
Jai. Jai Srimati
Jai.
Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari 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 Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Sripad Krishna Keshav Prabhu ki jai.
Jai Gurudev. Dhanyavad Pranam Siddhi.
Dandavad Pranam Prabhu. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.